Taeyang pushed open the door to the small restaurant, and the familiar smell of home cooking hit him immediately. After 3 weeks hauling cargo through empty space, this was exactly what he needed. The little place didn't even have a proper name, everyone just called it Hana's, after the woman who ran it. "You're back!" Hana's voice came from behind the counter, bright and welcoming as always. She wiped her hands on her apron and smiled at him. "Let me guess. You want the spicy soup and rice? You know me too well," Taeyang said, sliding into his usual seat by the window. Outside, he could see the metal corridors of Waystation Epsilon 7 stretching in every direction. The station sat on the edge of human space, a stopping point for traders, pilots, and wanderers. It wasn't much to look at, but Hana's cooking made it feel like home. Hana brought him water and sat down across from him for a moment. She always did this when the restaurant was quiet. How was the run to the Deneb colonies? Run about her? Long. Boring. The usual. Taeyang took a sip of water. "But I picked up something for you." He pulled a small package from his jacket, a bag of special spices from Earth that she'd mentioned wanting last time. Her face lit up. "Taeyang, you didn't have to do that. Consider it payment for all the times you fed me when I was short on credits," he said with a grin. She laughed and headed back to the kitchen. Taeyang watched her go, thinking not for the first time how strange it was that someone like her ended up out here. She was kind, patient, and clearly talented. She could have opened a restaurant anywhere on Earth. On the core worlds, anywhere people would pay good money for real home cooking. Instead, she ran this tiny place on a forgotten station at the edge of nowhere. The door opened again, and 3 Balthor traders walked in. They were large, gray-skinned aliens with thick arms and permanent scowls. They looked around the restaurant like they owned it, then sat down heavily at a table. "Human," one of them barked. "Bring food." Hana emerged from the kitchen, still smiling. "Of course. What would you like?" "Whatever. Just make it fast," the Balthor said dismissively. Taeyang felt his jaw tighten. He'd seen this before. A lot of alien species treated humans like they were soft, weak, good for nothing but service jobs. It made his blood boil. But Hana never seemed bothered by it. She just nodded and went back to cooking. 15 minutes later, she brought out 3 steaming plates. The Balthors ate without comment. But Taeyang noticed they cleaned their plates completely. When they left, they tossed a few credits on the table without a word of thanks. "Doesn't that bother you?" Taeyang asked when they were gone. "What?" Hana collected the dishes. "The way they treat you. The way a lot of aliens treat humans out here, like we're beneath them." Hana shrugged. "They're just people, Taeyang. Everyone has bad days. Everyone has their own problems. Still, you're too nice. Too patient." She gave him an amused look. "Is there such a thing as too nice?" "Maybe," he said. "I just think—" He paused, trying to find the right words. "You know, you'd make someone a really cute wife someday. All this cooking, taking care of everyone, being so patient, very traditional. Some lucky person is going to be very happy." He meant it as a compliment, a light-hearted observation, but something flickered across Hana's face just for a second. Her smile stayed in place, but her eyes changed. They became deeper, harder, like she was looking at something far away. Then it was gone, and she was cheerful Hana again. "That's sweet of you to say," she said softly. Before Taeyang could respond, his communicator buzzed. A message from station control. All pilots were to report for a briefing. Unusual. He showed Hana the message. "Better go see what that's about," she said. "Your soup will be ready when you get back." The briefing room was packed with people, pilots, traders, station workers. The station commander, an older human named Daejin, stood at the front, looking worried. "Listen up, everyone. We've received word that a Vortan Empire fleet is approaching the station. They're claiming this sector falls under their jurisdiction now and they're coming to secure it." Murmurs ran through the crowd. The Vortan Empire was known for aggressive expansion. They took what they wanted and called it protection. "What do we do?" someone asked. "For now, nothing. Dejin said. We've sent messages to Earth Alliance Command, but help is days away. The Vortons will be here in a few hours. Just stay calm. Don't give them any reason to use force. Taeyang felt his stomach sink. This was bad. The Vortons were warriors, and they looked down on humans even more than most species did. If they were taking over the station, things could get ugly fast. He headed back to Hana's restaurant. But when he arrived, it was empty. The lights were still on, and there was a pot of soup still warm on the stove. But Hana was nowhere to be seen. Hana? He called out. Nothing. He checked the back room, the storage area. Her personal belongings were still there, a small bag, some books, a framed photo of her with a stern-looking woman in some kind of uniform, but Hana herself was gone. That was odd. She never left the restaurant unattended during business hours. Taeyang's communicator buzzed again. All civilians to the main concourse immediately. The Vortans had arrived. He took one last look around the empty restaurant. That strange feeling from earlier returning. There had been something in Hana's eyes when he made that comment about her being a wife. Something that didn't match her simple, cheerful cook persona. He shook his head. He was probably imagining things. Hana was just Hana, a nice woman who made good food and didn't cause trouble. She'd probably just gone to her quarters or something, but as he walked toward the main concourse, Taeyang couldn't shake the feeling that he'd missed something important. Something about Hana that had been hiding in plain sight the whole time. The station shuddered as the Vortan ships docked. Through the windows, Taeyang could see their massive warships, dark, angular, covered in weapons. They made the small civilian vessels around the station look like toys. This was really happening. The Vortons were here, and somewhere on this station, Hana had disappeared right when things were about to get dangerous. Taeyang didn't know it yet. But that wasn't a coincidence. The main concourse of Way Station Epsilon 7 was packed with frightened people. Taeyang stood among the other civilians, watching as Vorton soldiers marched through in perfect formation. They were tall, muscular beings with dark red skin and faces that looked like they'd never smiled in their lives. Their armor was black and threatening, and each one carried a weapon that could probably vaporize a person in seconds. At the front of the group stood Ambassador Krell. He was larger than the others, with ceremonial markings on his armor that showed his rank. He looked at the gathered crowd the way someone might look at insects. Attention, residents of this station. Krell's voice boomed through the space. As of today, Way Station Epsilon 7 falls under the protection of the Vortan Empire. You will cooperate with our forces. You will follow our laws. Anyone who resists will be dealt with severely. You can't just take over a station, someone shouted from the crowd. Krell's head turned slowly toward the voice. Can't we? Who's going to stop us? You humans? He laughed, and his soldiers laughed with him. Look at you. Cooks, traders, service workers. You're soft, weak. You have no warriors, no spine. You exist to serve stronger species. Taeyang felt anger burning in his chest, but what could he do? The ambassador was right about one thing: there were no soldiers here. The station had a small security force, but they were just regular people with basic training. Against Vortan warriors, they'd be useless. This station will serve as a Vortan military outpost, Krell continued. Those of you who prove useful may stay. The rest will be relocated. Relocated where? The station commander, Dejin, asked. Does it matter? Krell smiled coldly. Now, before we begin processing you all, I have one question. Are there any military personnel present? Any soldiers hiding among you civilians? Silence. Everyone looked at each other nervously. Taeyang knew there weren't any soldiers here. This was a civilian trading station. Nothing more. Krell nodded, satisfied. Of course not. Typical humans. No spine, no warriors, just, I'm military. The voice was quiet but clear. Every head turned. Hana stepped forward from somewhere in the back of the crowd. She was still wearing her simple clothes from the restaurant, though she'd removed her apron. She looked small compared to the Vortan soldiers, delicate even. Several people in the crowd gasped, not because they were surprised to see her, but because they couldn't believe she was speaking up. Krell stared at her for a moment, then burst out laughing. His soldiers joined in, the sound echoing through the concourse. You? Krell could barely get the words out. A cook? A tiny human female who serves food? You're military? Yes, Hana said simply. This is ridiculous, Krell said, still chuckling. What are you? A cook in your military's cafeteria? Did you burn someone's meal and get sent out here as punishment? Hana didn't react to the insults. She just stood there, calm and still. Then, with slow, deliberate movements, she rolled up her left sleeve. Taeyong saw it then. On her forearm was a tattoo, a simple black design that looked like wings wrapped around a skull. He recognized it immediately. Every human in the galaxy would recognize it. The Ghost Corps insignia. His blood went cold. The Ghost Corps was legendary. They were humanity's most elite special operations unit, so secret that most people weren't even sure they existed. The stories about them were whispered in bars and trading posts across the galaxy. They were the shadows, the ghosts, the ones who did the impossible. And they were terrifying. Hana spoke again, her voice still quiet but somehow filling the entire space. My name is Colonel Hana. Ghost Corps, serial number HC 0010047. I'm currently on authorized leave. She paused. I was on leave. The laughter died. The Vortan soldiers shifted uncomfortably. But Krell, either brave or stupid, just sneered. Ghost Corps. I've heard the rumors. Supposed to be humanity's elite warriors, hidden in the shadows. So dangerous that we should all be afraid. He leaned forward, but I see just a small woman who cooks soup. Where are your weapons? Your armor? Your ship? I don't need them, Hana said. Really? Krell looked amused again. You're going to fight my entire battalion with your bare hands? No, Hana said. I'm going to give you one chance to leave peacefully. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this station before I consider this an act of war against Earth Alliance territory. Krell laughed again, but this time it sounded forced. You're insane. There's one of you and 50 of my soldiers. Even if you're as good as the stories say, which I doubt you can't possibly. 20 seconds, Hana said. Taeyong watched in disbelief. This was the same woman who'd brought him soup an hour ago. The same woman who smiled at rude customers and never raised her voice. But standing here now, facing down an entire Vortan military force, she seemed different, taller somehow, harder, dangerous. I'm not going to waste time on this, Krell said. Soldiers, detain her. If she resists, stun her. 4 Vortan soldiers moved toward Hana. She didn't move. Didn't even seem worried. Instead, she raised her left wrist to her mouth. Ghost Corps authorization confirmed, she said clearly. This is Colonel Hana, requesting immediate support. Ghost protocol activated. For a moment, nothing happened. Krell smirked. Your backup isn't coming, little cook. Then the lights flickered. The station's emergency alarm started wailing. Red warning lights flashed throughout the concourse. Everyone looked around in confusion. Sir. One of the Vortan soldiers was staring at a handheld scanner, his face going pale. Unidentified vessel decloaking. Port side. Distance, 50 meters. Krell's head snapped up. What? That's impossible. Our sensors would have. It's been there the whole time, Hana said quietly. You just couldn't see it. Taeyong ran to the nearest viewport and looked out. What he saw made his heart nearly stop. A ship was materializing out of nothing right next to the station. Not a small ship, a massive carrier. Easily 3 times the size of the largest Vortan warship. Its hull was midnight black, covered in technology that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. On its side, painted in gray that was barely visible, was that same insignia, wings and skull, the UESS Revenant. A Ghost Corps stealth carrier. It had been there all along. Invisible. Watching. Waiting. A voice crackled over every speaker in the station, calm and cold. Vortan vessels. This is Captain Nari of the United Earth Special Services. You have 10 seconds to power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Colonel Hana's safety is our only concern. Comply immediately, or be eliminated. The Vortan soldiers were panicking now, looking to Krell for orders. The ambassador's confident sneer had vanished. He was staring at the massive human warship, and Taeyang could see fear in his eyes. Hana walked slowly toward Krell. The Vortan soldiers between them actually stepped aside to let her pass. You asked earlier if I'd make a cute wife, Hana said, her voice conversational now, like she was discussing a recipe. The answer is yes. I'm engaged to Captain Nari. Actually, we met during the Altair campaign. She smiled that same warm smile Taeyang had seen 100 times in her restaurant. That's where we eliminated an entire Krolix invasion fleet with just 12 operatives. Krell was backing away now. But I should also mention, Hana continued, that I led the operation that made your Empire's third war fleet disappear last year. You know, the 15 ships that vanished without a trace near the Helix Nebula? They're not missing. We have them. All the ships, all the crew. They're in a detention facility on Europa, waiting for a war crimes trial. Taeyang felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. The Third War Fleet incident had been huge news. An entire Vortan battle group had vanished. And the Empire had blamed pirates, rebels, anyone but humanity. No one had suspected the truth. So here's what's going to happen, Hana said softly. You're going to order your ships to withdraw. You're going to report to your superiors that this station is under Ghost Corps protection. And you're going to remember this moment every single time your Empire considers humans weak. She looked around at all the Vortan soldiers. We choose to be kind, she said. We choose to cook, to trade, to smile, and be peaceful. But kindness is a choice, not a weakness. Remember that. For a long moment, nobody moved. The Vortan soldiers stood frozen, weapons half raised but uncertain. Ambassador Krell's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The massive Ghost Corps ship hung in space like a dark promise, its weapons systems humming with barely contained power. Then Krell did something incredibly stupid. His hand shot out and grabbed Taeyang by the collar, yanking him forward. Before anyone could react, Krell had a small energy blade pressed against Taeyang's throat. Everyone stays back, Krell shouted, his earlier confidence cracking into panic. I have a hostage. Tell your ship to withdraw, or this human dies. Taeyang felt the cold edge of the blade against his skin. His heart hammered in his chest. He wanted to struggle, to break free. But one wrong move, and the blade would cut right through him. Hana turned to look at them. Her expression had been calm before, almost gentle despite the tension. But now, as she looked at Krell, holding Taeyang hostage, something changed in her face. Her eyes went completely cold. Wrong move, she whispered. What happened next? Taeyang would remember for the rest of his life, but he'd never fully understand how she did it. Hana moved. Not rushed, not panicked, but with a speed and precision that didn't seem human. One moment, she was 5 meters away. The next, she was right there, her hand striking Krell's wrist with surgical accuracy. The energy blade flew from his grip. Before it even hit the ground, Hana had spun, her foot connecting with Krell's knee. The ambassador dropped, and Hana's hand was on his shoulder, pressing a point that made him freeze completely, unable to move. The entire thing took less than 2 seconds. Taeyang stumbled backward, free, his hand going to his throat. No blood. The blade hadn't even scratched him. The Vortan soldiers raised their weapons, but they were too slow. Other people were moving now, people Taeyang recognized from around the station. The maintenance worker who'd fixed his ship's cooling system last week, the merchant who sold data chips in the market, the quiet janitor who cleaned the docking bays. All of them moved with the same deadly precision as Hana. Within seconds, every Vortan soldier in the concourse was disarmed and on the ground. Not one shot had been fired. Not one person had been killed. But But the Vortons were completely neutralized, held in pressure holds and joint locks that left them helpless. Ghost Core doesn't travel alone, Hana said, still holding Krell immobilized. We've had operatives on this station for 6 months. Watching. Protecting. Waiting. She looked at the terrified ambassador. You came to a station that serves as a Ghost Corps forward observation post. And you threatened civilians. You pointed weapons at unarmed people, and worst of all, you threatened someone under my protection. She pressed slightly harder on whatever pressure point she was holding. Krell gasped in pain. Here's the new deal, Hana said. Your ships withdraw immediately. You leave our space and never come back. In exchange, we don't turn this into an incident that starts a war your empire can't win. You can't, Krell tried to speak. I can, Hana said flatly. Ask your military intelligence about the siege of Proxima Station. Ask them who broke the siege when 6 alien empires thought they had us surrounded. Ask them who made 3 armies surrender without firing a single shot. She leaned closer. That was me and 11 other operatives. You have 50 soldiers here. We have 20 Ghost Corps operators on this station. Do the math. The station's speakers crackled again. Captain Nari's voice, still calm but with an edge now. Ambassador Krell, our weapons are locked on your ships. If Colonel Hana is harmed in any way, your fleet will cease to exist in approximately 40 seconds. If you attempt to harm any other civilian, the timeline is the same. Your move. Krell's resistance crumbled. Stand down, he croaked to his soldiers. All forces, stand down and return to ships. The Vortan soldiers were released and escorted back to their vessels by the Ghost Corps operatives. They moved quickly, eager to leave. Through the viewport, Taeyang watched as the Vortan warships powered down weapons and began to pull away from the station. Within 10 minutes, they were gone. The tension in the concourse broke. People started talking all at once, some crying with relief, others asking questions. But Taeyang just stood there, staring at Hana. She was talking to one of the other Ghost Corps operatives, a man Taeyang recognized as the data chip merchant. They were discussing patrol schedules and sensor coverage like it was the most normal thing in the world. Then a woman in a proper military uniform walked into the concourse. She was tall, with sharp eyes and an air of absolute authority. Captain Nari, Taeyang guessed. She walked straight to Hana. For a moment, the two women just looked at each other. Then Nari smiled, actually smiled, and pulled Hana into a hug. You promised me a quiet vacation, Nari said. I made you soup every day for 3 weeks, Hana replied. That counts. You know what I mean. They threatened civilians. What was I supposed to do? Nari sighed, but she was still smiling. Nothing. You did exactly what you should have done. She kissed Hana's forehead gently. But we're going to have to file about 30 incident reports now. Worth it, Hana said. Taeyang finally found his voice. You're really Ghost Corps. Hana turned to him, and her expression softened. I am. I'm sorry for the deception, Taeyang. But the cover was necessary. The restaurant? The cooking? All of it was fake? No, Hana said firmly. That part was real. The restaurant is real. My cooking is real. I really do love making food for people. She glanced at Nari. Ghost Corps gives us mandatory leave periods. We can't operate at peak efficiency without rest. I chose to spend mine cooking because it reminds me of home. It reminds me of why we do what we do. To protect people, Nari added, to make sure civilians can live their lives without fear. Taeyang's mind was reeling. But earlier, when I said you'd make a cute wife, Hana actually laughed. I know what you meant, and you weren't wrong. I am getting married. She took Nari's hand. Next month, actually. Small ceremony on Earth. You're invited, by the way, Nari said. Fair warning, though. Most of the guests will be highly trained killers. But the food will be incredible. Hana's cooking. Obviously, I don't know what to say. Taeyang admitted. You don't have to say anything, Hana said kindly. Just keep being you. Keep flying your routes. Keep visiting the station. The restaurant isn't going anywhere. You're staying? My leave isn't over for another month, Hana said. And someone has to feed all these people. She gestured to the Ghost Corps operatives, who were now helping calm the other civilians and check for injuries. Over the next hour, things slowly returned to normal. The Ghost Corps operatives melted back into their cover identities. The maintenance worker went back to fixing environmental systems. The data merchant went back to his shop. The janitor went back to cleaning. But everyone on the station now knew the truth. They were protected. They'd always been protected. Humanity didn't leave its people defenseless in the dark corners of space. Taeyang helped Hana walk back to her restaurant. The pot of soup was still there. Still warm. You left this for me, didn't you? He asked. Before you went to the concourse. You knew what was about to happen. We monitor all communications, Hana said. We knew the Vortons were coming hours before they arrived. I made sure you'd have a meal waiting. She smiled. A soldier fights better on a full stomach. I'm not a soldier. No, but you're brave. You stood with everyone else instead of running. That counts for something. She served him the soup. Just like always. It tasted exactly the same, perfect, warm, like home. But now Taeyang understood what he was really tasting. It wasn't just food. It was care, protection, someone watching over him from the shadows. Can I ask you something? Taeyang said between bites. Of course. How many of you are there? Ghost Corps. I mean, how many humans are out there, hiding, protecting us? Hana considered the question. That's classified. But I can tell you this more than you'd think. Fewer than you'd hope. We do our best. Is every station protected like this? Most of them. The ones near the frontier especially. We can't be everywhere, but we try to cover the vulnerable spots. Taeyang thought about that. About all the human civilians scattered across the galaxy. Working normal jobs. Living normal lives. And somewhere nearby, always nearby, were people like Hana. Watching, waiting, ready to become something terrifying at a moment's notice. Thank you, he said finally, for protecting us, for being there. Hana reached across the table and squeezed his hand briefly. That's what we're here for. Now eat your soup before it gets cold. 3 days passed. Life on Waystation Epsilon 7 returned to something like normal. Though everyone moved a little differently now. People looked at the maintenance workers, the shop owners, the janitors with new eyes. Anyone could be Ghost Corps. That quiet person fixing the water recycler might be a trained killer. That friendly vendor selling fruit might be able to take down an entire squad of enemy soldiers. It was comforting and unsettling at the same time. Taeyang spent most of those 3 days at Hana's restaurant. He told himself it was because she made the best food on the station. But really, he just wanted to understand, to talk to someone who lived in 2 worlds, the peaceful civilian life and the hidden warrior life. Does it ever bother you? He asked one evening. The restaurant was empty except for him. Hana was cleaning tables, just like always. Does what bother me? Living 2 lives. Being 2 different people. Hana paused, thinking about the question. I'm not 2 different people. I'm just one person with different skills. When I cook, I'm being myself. When I fight, I'm also being myself. Both parts are real. But the fighting part is so different, so intense. Is it? Hana sat down across from him. Think about cooking. You take raw ingredients. You apply knowledge and skill. You create something that feeds people. Fighting is similar. You take a dangerous situation. You apply knowledge and skill. You create safety for people. The goal is the same. Protect. Provide. Care. I never thought about it that way. Most people don't, Hana said. They see warriors and civilians as completely separate. But we're all just people trying to take care of each other. Some of us use weapons. Some use cooking spoons. Different tools. The same purpose. Taeyang was about to respond when his communicator buzzed. Message from Station Command. His stomach dropped when he read it. "What's wrong?" Hana asked, reading his expression. "Vortan ships. A lot of them. They're on approach to the station." Hana's face didn't change, but something shifted in her posture. She was already moving, pulling out her own communicator. "How many ships?" 15, maybe 20. Taeyang's hands were shaking. "This is bad. This is really bad." "Stay calm," Hana said. She was reading something on her communicator. "Ghost Corps already knows. They've been tracking the fleet since it left Vortan space 2 days ago." 2 days? And you didn't tell anyone? "We don't create panic before it's necessary," Hana said. She looked up at him. "But yes. This is serious. The Vortan Empire is sending a retaliation fleet. They're calling it a matter of honor after what happened with Ambassador Krell." Within the hour, everyone on the station knew. The Vortan Empire wasn't just sending a few ships to make a point, they were sending a battle group. Warships, carrier vessels, enough firepower to destroy the station 10 times over. Station Commander Daejin called another emergency meeting. This time, people weren't just scared. They were terrified. The Vortans were coming for revenge, and there was nowhere to run. But when Taeyang arrived at the meeting, he found Hana standing with Captain Nari at the front of the room. Several other Ghost Corps operatives were there too, no longer hiding their identities. "Listen up, everyone," Nari said, her voice cutting through the worried chatter. "Yes, a Vortan battle group is approaching. Yes, they're angry about what happened. But no, you're not in danger." "Not in danger?" someone shouted. "There are 20 warships coming to destroy us. They can try," Nari said calmly. "They won't succeed." Hana stepped forward. "I want to show you all something. Something most civilians never see." She gestured to a large screen behind her. "This is classified information, but given the circumstances, you deserve to know the truth about how humanity protects itself." The screen lit up with a star map. Taeyang recognized their sector of space, with way station Epsilon 7, marked in blue. Surrounding the station were dozens of red dots, the approaching Vortan fleet. "This is what the Vortans see," Hana said. "A civilian station, mostly undefended. An easy target." She pressed a button. The map changed. New markers appeared, green dots surrounding the station, hiding in asteroid fields, lurking behind nearby planets. Scattered throughout the system, there were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. "This is what's really here," Hana said. "The Ghost Fleet. Humanity's hidden defense network." The room went completely silent. "Every human station, every colony, every trade route is protected like this," Nari explained. "Stealth ships, hidden bases, cloaked weapons platforms. We've been building this network for decades. The Vortans think they're attacking a defenseless target. In reality, they're walking into a trap." "But why hide it?" Daejin asked. "Why not show our strength openly?" "Because open strength invites open conflict," Hana said. "If everyone knew how powerful humanity really is, other species would see us as a threat. They'd form alliances against us. There would be constant war." She looked around the room. "By appearing weak, by seeming peaceful and harmless, we avoid conflicts before they start. But when someone pushes too far, when they threaten our people, we show them the truth." Taeyang stared at the map. All those green dots. All those hidden ships. Humanity had been playing weak, while secretly being one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. "The Vortans are about to learn what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness," Nari said. 2 hours later, the Vortan fleet arrived. Taeyang watched from the observation deck, along with dozens of other civilians. The Vortan ships were massive and intimidating, bristling with weapons. Their commander's face appeared on every screen in the station. It was Admiral Krell, Ambassador Krell's brother. "This station is guilty of harboring terrorists and assaulting Vortan personnel," Admiral Krell announced. "You will surrender immediately and submit to Vortan justice. You have 5 minutes to comply." No response from the station. The seconds ticked by. Taeyong could see the Vorton ships powering up weapons. Then, all around the fleet, space seemed to ripple. The ghost fleet decloaked. Taeyong had never seen anything like it. Dozens of human warships appeared from nowhere, surrounding the Vortan battle group completely. They were sleek, dark, and covered in technology that made them look more like predators than ships. Compared to the bulky Vortan vessels, they looked almost alive. And there were so many of them. The Vortons had brought 20 ships. Humanity had brought 60. Captain Nari's face appeared on all the screens, replacing Admiral Krell's image. "Admiral Krell," she said, her voice perfectly calm, "your brother survived his encounter with us because we chose to let him live. We chose mercy. But understand, this mercy is a choice we make, not a weakness you can exploit." She gestured off-screen, and the display changed to show a tactical readout. "You're currently surrounded by the 7th Ghost Fleet. Every one of your ships is in our targeting solutions. You cannot run. You cannot fight your way out. You have exactly one option. Leave now, or discover why humanity has never lost a war in space." "You're bluffing," Admiral Krell said, but his voice wavered. "Am I?" Nari smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. "Let me tell you a story. Admiral, 40 years ago, the Krolix Empire invaded Earth's moon colony. They thought we were weak. They had superior numbers, superior weapons. Do you know what happened?" She didn't wait for an answer. "We destroyed their entire invasion fleet in 6 hours. Then we tracked down every Krolix military installation within 50 light-years and dismantled them. We did it so quietly, so completely, that most of the galaxy still doesn't know it happened. The Krolix Empire collapsed within a year. They're not a threat anymore." The observation deck was utterly silent. Even the Ghost Corps operatives looked impressed. Apparently this story was above even their clearance level. "We don't want war," Nari continued. "We genuinely prefer peace. We'd rather cook meals and trade goods and live quietly. But when someone threatens our people, when someone mistakes our kindness for weakness, we remind them of something important." She leaned closer to the camera. "Humanity didn't reach the stars by being weak. We reached them by being smart enough to hide our strength until we needed it. We're patient. We're kind. We're peaceful. But we are not, and have never been, harmless." Admiral Krell's face had gone pale. Around his fleet, the ghost ships began to move. Not threatening, but showing off their capabilities. They moved faster than the Vortan ships, turned sharper, coordinated perfectly. "You have 60 seconds to withdraw," Nari said. "After that, I stop being polite. And trust me, Admiral, you don't want that." Admiral Krell stared at the screen for a long moment. Taeyong could see the conflict on his face, pride warring with survival instinct. The Vortan Empire prided itself on strength, on never backing down. But backing down was clearly the smart choice here. Finally, the Admiral spoke. "All ships, power down weapons. We're withdrawing." The Vortan fleet turned and began to move away from the station. They moved slowly, carefully, like they expected the human ships to attack them from behind. But the Ghost fleet just watched them go, weapons ready but not firing. When the Vortan ships reached the edge of the system and jumped to faster-than-light travel, a cheer went up throughout the station. People were crying, hugging each other, celebrating. They'd survived. The Vortons were gone, but Taeyong noticed something. The Ghost fleet wasn't celebrating. The ships maintained their positions. Weapons still powered. Sensors still active. They looked like hunting animals that had let prey escape but were ready to chase again at any moment. "They're not happy the Vortons left," Taeyong said to Hana, who'd joined him at the observation window. "No," Hana agreed. "We're angry they came at all. Angry they threatened civilians. Again." She sighed. "But killing them would have started a war, and war means civilian casualties, so we let them run. What happens now?" Now Earth Alliance Command opens official diplomatic channels with the Vortan Empire. There will be negotiations, treaties, agreements. The Vortons will formally apologize and sign a non-aggression pact. Hana smiled slightly. They always do eventually. Because they're scared of you. Because they understand us now. There's a difference. Hana looked at the departing ships. Fear makes enemies. Understanding can make peace. Over the next week, things played out exactly as Hana predicted. The Vortan Empire sent formal apologies. They claimed the attacks were unauthorized actions by rogue commanders. Within days, they signed a comprehensive non-aggression treaty with the Earth Alliance. The Ghost Fleet gradually recloaked and disappeared, melting back into the shadows. The operatives on the station returned to their cover identities. The maintenance worker went back to fixing things. The data merchant went back to selling information chips. The universe returned to normal, except everyone knew the truth now. Humanity wasn't weak. They just chose to appear that way. 3 weeks later, Taeyang received a message from Hana, an invitation to her wedding on Earth. He almost didn't go. What would he do at a wedding full of elite soldiers and secret operatives? But curiosity won out. He took a commercial transport to Earth, his first visit to humanity's homeworld in 5 years. The wedding was held at a small venue in the countryside, surrounded by green hills and old trees. It was beautiful and peaceful, nothing like what Taeyang expected from a gathering of Ghost Corps personnel. But when he arrived, he found exactly that kind of gathering. There were about 50 guests, and Taeyang recognized several faces from the station. The maintenance worker was there, wearing a formal suit instead of coveralls. The data merchant was chatting with someone by the refreshment table. Even the janitor had come, but they all looked different here. Relaxed. Happy. Taeyang, you made it. Hana appeared, wearing a simple white dress. She looked radiant. Genuinely joyful. I'm so glad you came. Thank you for inviting me, Taeyang said. I wasn't sure I should. Don't be silly. You're a friend. Hana took his arm and led him into the venue. Come on. Let me introduce you to some people. The next hour was surreal. Hana introduced him to people casually, like they were ordinary wedding guests. This is Daeho. He specializes in explosive ordnance disposal. This is Myung. She's our best sniper. Oh, and this is Jiwon. He once held off an entire pirate fleet with just a disabled shuttle and 3 mines. Each person shook Taeyang's hand warmly and welcomed him. They asked about his cargo routes, his ship, his life. They were just people. Dangerous people. Yes, but people who could laugh and tell jokes and celebrate a wedding. The ceremony itself was short and beautiful. Captain Nari looked stunning in her formal uniform. When she and Hana exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the venue. These warriors, these shadows who protected humanity from the dark, were crying happy tears. At the reception, Taeyang found himself sitting next to the maintenance worker from the station. His real name was Junho, and he was actually a combat engineer. Can I ask you something? Taeyang said. Sure. Why do you do it? The hiding, the pretending, the secret life? Junho thought about it while taking a sip of his drink. Because it works. When people know you're dangerous, they treat you like a threat, but when they think you're harmless, they underestimate you, and that gives us the advantage we need to actually keep people safe. But don't you want recognition? Credit for what you do? We get recognition where it matters from each other, from the people we save who know the truth. Junho gestured around the room. Everyone here knows what we do. We know, that's enough. The party continued into the evening. There was music, dancing, incredible food that Hana had partially prepared herself despite it being her wedding day. Taeyang watched as these deadly operatives became just people celebrating love and friendship. Later, Hana found him standing alone on the venue's balcony, looking at Earth's night sky. Beautiful, isn't it? She said, joining him. Very. I'd forgotten how many stars you can see from Earth. That's why we protect it. All of this. Hana gestured at the sky, the countryside, everything. Every human out there, on every station and colony and ship, they deserve to see this. To come home, to live without fear, even if they don't know you're protecting them, especially then. Hana smiled. The best protection is the kind people don't have to think about. They just live their lives, And somewhere in the shadows, we make sure they can keep doing that. Taeyong looked at her, really looked at her. She was the same woman who'd served him soup on a distant station. The same woman who'd smiled at rude customers and never complained. But she was also a colonel in humanity's most elite force. Someone who'd fought in battles most people would never know about. Both versions were real. Both were her. When you go back to the station, Taeyong said, will you still run the restaurant? Of course. My leave isn't over for another week. Hana laughed. And honestly, after all this ceremony and formality, I'll be happy to get back to just cooking for people. It's peaceful. Even knowing that Vortons or someone else might attack again, especially then. Hana's expression grew serious. That's the whole point, Taeyong. We don't fight because we love violence. We fight so that we can have peace, so that we can cook and trade and build lives. The fighting is just what we do to protect the living. Captain Nari, now officially Hana's wife, appeared at the balcony door. There you are. Come on. They're about to cut the cake. Hana took her hand, and they walked back inside together. Taeyong followed, feeling like he finally understood something important. Humanity had learned from its bloody history. They'd fought each other for thousands of years on Earth, nearly destroying themselves multiple times. When they reached the stars, they made a choice to be peaceful, to be kind, to build instead of destroy. But peace didn't mean forgetting how to fight. It meant choosing not to, until you had to. The galaxy saw humans as soft, weak, good for cooking and serving. And humans let them think that. They smiled. They traded. They ran restaurants and fixed ships and cleaned stations. They appeared harmless. But underneath, in the shadows, they were apex predators. Patient, intelligent, and absolutely lethal when protecting their own. The wedding ended late. Guests said their goodbyes, heading back to their secret lives across the galaxy. Tomorrow, Junho would go back to pretending to be a maintenance worker. Mi-young would go back to her cover as a merchant. They'd all return to their roles, hiding in plain sight. And Hana would go back to her restaurant, serving soup to tired travelers and smiling at rude customers. She'd take care of people, feed them, make them feel at home. And if anyone threatened them, if anyone made the mistake of thinking she was weak, she'd remind them of the truth. Humans chose peace, but they were very, very good at war. As Taeyong left Earth the next day, heading back to his cargo routes and his life in space, he felt safer than he ever had before. Not because he had weapons or armor or a big ship, but because somewhere out there, watching from the shadows, people like Hana were protecting him, and they always would be. He made a mental note to thank her with extra compliments about her cooking when he got back to the station. She'd earned that much, though he'd never again make the mistake of calling her just a cute wife. She was that, yes, but she was also so much more, and that, Taeyong realized, was the most human thing of all.